President John Young, this is your first hangout. Am I correct?
That's correct.
Well, welcome.
First time doing this.
Yeah. What do you think?
I think it's interesting. It's very neat. It's high tech, and I think it's the wave of the future. So thanks.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, obviously, there's another wave coming in, and that's the FEMA maps and the incredible high insurance rates that's going to hit us all down here, or many of us. Why don't you give us some background in terms of what's going on with the FEMA insurance, the flood insurance?
Absolutely. What we're talking about, Stephen, is the Bigot Waters Act of 2012, which was signed by President Obama on July 6th of 2012. And this is a classic case of legislation passed with unintended consequences. I don't think you can overstate the importance of the negative impact this is going to have on not only Louisiana. This is a national issue. But essentially what is going to happen is they are going to price flood insurance where people aren't going to be able to afford to stay in their homes. And if you look at people who live along the coast, together with riverine communities, you're talking about 80% of the population of the United States. We've seen what's happened in Boulder, Colorado. We now started off as a small group of parish presidents back in May, now have over 175 organizations in 27 states. But what is going to happen is, for instance, there is a gentleman in Plaquemines Parish who's never been flooded. His rates are going to go from $638 per year to about $26,000 per year. He's never been flooded. He built according to code. So these are people that played by the rules, built according to the code at the time, and are now going to be penalized. And they're going to lose the American dream, potentially lose the American dream of home ownership. In Louisiana, we are the third state with the most policyholders. Texas and Florida ahead of us. We have about close to 500,000, about 486,000 policyholders in national flood insurance. And in Jefferson Parish, we have over 120. So Jefferson Parish has a fourth of the policyholders within the state of Louisiana. That's why I've been fighting so hard on behalf of our citizens. And what happened, Stephen, is one of the major things they did with this legislation is they took out the grandfather provision. They left the grandfather provision on the policy, but not on the property. So everyone who played by the rules and built according to the code at the time, they're now taking the rug out from under them and jeopardizing their home ownership. It's going to affect the real estate market, it's going to affect the banking industry, and ultimately it's going to affect local government's ability to finance the services that our citizens have come to deserve and expect. So it's going to eviscerate communities.
So what does that mean in terms of time? Are the policies going up right now, or?
Good question.
Yeah.
Good question. As of January 1 of this year, Stephen, vacation homes and secondary homes went up. And we're not arguing about that. We're arguing about people. We have a working coast here in Louisiana. We don't have high-rise condos like Alabama Gulf Shores and Florida Gulf Coast. And then severe repetitive loss properties, we're also saying, look, if people are getting severe repetitive losses and flooding, then obviously there has to be an adjustment there. So we're not arguing about that. But what we're arguing about is people who play by the rules. Now, those major impacts aren't going to happen until 2014. Some of it's already gone into already. And if you sell your house, anybody buys your new house, then they're going to have to pay the new premiums now. But what we're working on right now is a 4-year delay. Jefferson Parish Council passed a resolution asking for a 4-year delay at my request, and actually as a bipartisan group of senators and representatives who are actually asking for that right now. And this is why it's a 4-year delay. Another problem with Bigot Waters is in the legislation, Stephen, they required an affordability study be done. Craig Fugate, when he testified before a U.S. Senate committee hearing about a month ago, testified that not only have they not completed the affordability study, they haven't even started it, and it's not going to be complete to 2015. So you're putting the cart before the horse. You have to have the affordability study done. That's going to take 2 years. Then it's going to take about another 2 years to reach a permanent solution. We're not arguing against the sustainability of NFIP, which is why it was well intended when they went into this Bigot Waters Act. But what's going to happen if they don't correct it, because it's so flawed that it's going to not even accomplish that purpose, because everybody's going to opt out of the program. Another important thing to note is that Maxine Waters, who we're going to meet with tomorrow, Friday, November 8th, one of the authors of the bill has come out against her own bill because she realizes it had severe negative unintended consequences. What I've done is I've started a website saying Stop the Hikes. StopTheHikes.com, where you can go sign a petition, because we're trying to, a lot of people don't even realize what's coming down the pike on this situation. So we're trying to educate people that wake up. This is a serious issue, and it actually is going to have more of a negative impact, in my humble opinion, than all of the storms and the BP all is asked to put together if Biggert-Waters is allowed to go in unchecked and unamended.
So, I was at the meeting, I believe it was downtown, and you had the FEMA representative come in. And what has happened since then?
Well, one thing you're talking about, I'm drawing a blank on his name right now, but the assistant to Craig Fugate came down, and we took him down to Terrebonne, because another problem with the Act, quite frankly, Stephen, is they didn't recognize any flood protection other than 100 years certified. It was David Miller, by the way, certified protection, certified by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. So we have certain flood protection in Jefferson Parish, for instance, that we did on our own. Retention ponds, pumping stations that aren't recognized by the Corps that need to be incorporated into these levee analysis mapping projects called LAMP. And same thing in Terrebonne and Lafourche. So when Mr. Miller came down, he saw these things that, based on FEMA's maps, didn't exist. So they're taking the steps to incorporate that into it. But again, when Craig Fugate, his boss, testified, he said he realized there's a problem. There's no dispute there's a problem with Biggert-Waters, but he testified his hands are tied. So it's going to require legislative remedy and administrative remedies. They're working on the administrative remedies, where they're now incorporating some of the flood protection, and we have made an appeal on behalf of Jefferson Parish residents for certain flood protection measures we've taken on our own nickel that aren't U.S. Army certified levee protection systems. So we're working that angle as well.
So what's the opposition? I mean, obviously the I would assume the administration is certainly going to, or wants to, correct this. The Congress also needs to correct it. So what's the opposition? Where is it? Why?
The opposition, and that's the other thing we're telling people. When I testified before the state legislature a couple weeks ago, asking those legislators, because it's going to have to be solved at the federal level, but to talk to their counterparts in other states, particularly Alabama, because Richard Shelby, the senator from Alabama, is against amending this act. So obviously, he's a very influential player. Then you have an influential congressman from Texas who's against amending the act, because there's this mindset, which is incorrect, that we shouldn't be living where we are living. But we are a working coast here in Louisiana. We provide 30 to 35% of the oil and natural gas for the rest of the United States. We provide 30 to 35% of the fisheries consumed in the United States. So we're a working coast. We're not a coast where you have $1 million condos as secondary homes. So this is our livelihood. But there is some opposition. There's some insurance companies who take the position that this is a subsidy that should go away. But again, we have to remember, these are people. We're fighting for people who played by the rules, who built according to FEMA standards at the time, and now you're coming in after the fact and changing the rules and destroying the American dream, because the American dream, in large part, is home ownership. And if you're like me, your biggest investment's in your home, and if you're like me, you can't afford to pay cash for your home, so when you have a mortgage, you require to have flood insurance. And if you can't afford flood insurance, when it goes from $638 to $26,000 a year, you can't even sell your house, Stephen, because guess what? The next person can't afford to pay that either. So your house market value goes down. In fact, already in St. Charles Parish, a neighboring parish, the assessor's already announced that he's going to devalue properties from between 18 to 30% based upon the impact of this act.
I still don't quite understand this. Let me throw something out to you. I mean, certainly Mobile is on the bay. New York City.
I can't figure that one out either.
I mean, New York City is certainly on its own bay, and I'm just wondering, are they going to is Senator Shelby thinking about moving Mobile up north Alabama? I
I,
mean,
I can't speak for Senator Shelby.
sure, I
But
understand.
I can tell you that we do have the support of New Jersey, New York, North Dakota, South Dakota, Massachusetts, and again, we saw recently, even in the mountains, you started to flooding. In Boulder, Colorado, unfortunately, those people flooded. Sacramento. So we've built a coalition. When we went up there in May, Stephen, and talked to the staff that helped write the bill with the House Financial Services Committee, they told us that they didn't realize that this was an issue because we were the first ones to come up and even complain about it. And I remember saying myself that we may be the first, but we're not going to be the last. And since that time, as I said, 27 states have joined the coalition for sustainable flood insurance, and over 175 organizations. But there is opposition, and that's why we got to continue to fight this fight. But I can tell you the positive aspects of it. We have a bipartisan coalition, and you know right now in Washington, it's hard to get a bipartisan coalition to even agree on what day of the week it is. But we have a bipartisan coalition fighting to amend bigger waters.
So it seems to me like the big insurance issue may be the biggest waters issue, and I'm just jesting here, rather than say Obamacare.
Well, this is Obamacare in the flood insurance arena. This is exactly the same issue, making it unaffordable. One time making it unaffordable with people being dropped from health care. This is people making it unaffordable to be able to afford flood insurance. So this is the Obamacare version of flood insurance, is what I would tell you it is.
Sure, absolutely. And just two things. And one is, what's the name of the website again?
StopTheHikes.com. www.stopthehikes.com. Ask everyone to go to that website and sign this petition so we can send a strong message to Congress. Because although we made a lot of headway, we still have a long way to go.
And one last thing, and that is that if you could send a message to those people who are, say, not knowledgeable about this issue, or who are knowledgeable but oppose, say, your position and the coalition's position, what would that message be?
The message would be we're not against, and actually we're advocating for sustainable flood insurance. So we want the same goal. But the way this law was written and the effects it's going to have, those unintended consequences, are not even going to accomplish that goal. In fact, it's going to have a downward spiral where it's going to be even less sustainable financially. And I also want to point out that NFIP was financially sustainable until Katrina, which was an unprecedented event. And I'd argue as a lawyer that it was more catastrophic because of the failures of the eye walls, which were defectively designed by the court and other branches of the federal government. Don't penalize the people in Louisiana and the coastal communities for that. But also, again, we're talking about the American dream. Home ownership is the American dream. This act is going to take away home ownership for many people, good Americans who play by the rules, abided by the law, and now having the rules of the game changed on them after the fact. That's un-American.
Absolutely. Well, President John Young, listen, thank you so much, and let's absolutely do it again.
Enjoy.
And thank you for your time.
Thank you.